The case we're going to talk about today is a case called Roybal v. Shack LLC, otherwise known as Sapphire's, my favorite strip club in Las Vegas. It is the largest strip club in the world, for those of you looking for something to do tonight.
And he only says it's his favorite because they owe us $20 million.
This case was brought to us by an attorney by the name of Ben Bingham, who's based up in Lake Tahoe. Ben is a good friend, been a friend for a long time. This was the first case that he allowed us to work with him on, even though Ben and I have been friends for 20 years. When he brought us the case, we looked at it, and Geordan and I looked at each other and said, I don't understand. Why haven't they paid you the money? There's $1 million policy on the case. And I said, I don't understand why they haven't paid us the money. Why aren't they giving you the money? And then I also said, by the way, they're lying to you. There's no way they only have $1 million in coverage. They're the largest strip club in the world. It's huge. I mean, for those of you who don't know, like literally, when I say the largest, it's like 60,000 square feet. It's literally a humongous facility. And it's known worldwide. It's a big stopping ground. Business is largely pushed by, as we've learned subsequent to the verdict, the convention business that comes to Las Vegas. And so it turns out that, in fact, they actually did have more insurance. They had another $1 million. So they had $2 million. But still, they didn't offer us any money. And the top offer we ever got on this case all the way through trial was $500,000. They believed that this case was defensible. They believed they were going to defend it. They didn't think we could win it. Their theory of this case, essentially, in a nutshell, and Jordan's going to do the presentation, but just to kind of give you the sense, this is a bicyclist that gets hit by a Suburban that was a Sapphire Suburban. He was going to pick somebody up at night. And their theory was, the defense theory of the case was, it was all bullshit, it was staged, it was fake, and that our guy is a drug addict. And that was kind of the theory of the case and why they weren't going to pay any money. And they stuck to that all the way through verdict. So, Jordan, go ahead. I'll let you take over from here until right. Jordan was lead counsel on this case. My job on this case was to help prep. So Jordan and I prepped through the whole time together, and then we agreed that I would handle all the medicine of the case, and Jordan would handle all the liability. So that's how this case got split up. So Jordan did jury selection, opening, close, and all liability, and I just handled the medicine, which turned out to be a little bit complicated, but got through it. So.
And he made a pretty good second chair. Sean Claggett, second chair. So today, we're going to be talking about this case. I call it vehicle v. pedestrian, but it's really a bicyclist. We're going to start by talking about developing the story of the case, how you go about doing that, how we do it every day. When Sean said we're working 60 hours a week on trials, that's only when I take 3 days of vacation, that it's only 60 hours. So we'll move on from developing the story of the case to talking about themes. Themes are really important, but you know what? Even if you don't come up with a theme, every story has a theme. So if you don't come up with a theme yourself and then manipulate it and use it in the way that you want to, the jury's going to come up with their own themes for your case. And if they're not good themes for you, you're going to see it in the verdict. Then we'll move on and talk about demonstratives we used in this case, demonstratives we use in every case. We'll talk about the opening statement, talk about witness examinations, and then we'll end by talking about the closing statement. So let's begin by talking about developing the story of the case. When I'm trying to figure out what the story is going to be, I need to have all of the data points in front of me. I need to have all the data there so I can look at it and figure out what the story of the case is. A lot of the work that Sean and I do is not in working up the case. The case comes to us when it's getting ready for trial. So we have lawyers come in and they tell us about their cases, and they're so in the weeds on their cases. They know their cases so well, but they know the nitty and the gritty, and they can't see the forest for the trees. So I say, tell me about your case. And they say, well, PG&E provides power to the main distribution panel, and it comes into a main transformer at 10,000 volts, and then it goes to a drop down into a pull out. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you just said to me. And there's no way a fourth grade jury's going to understand it. Simplify it. So how do I figure out the story? I want all the data in front of me. So I can look at all the pieces of the data and then start thinking about how to break it down and build it back up again. And the word that resonates in my head every time I do that, you might want to write this down. KISS. KISS. Has anybody ever heard that? KISS? What does KISS stand for? Oh man, did you hear what he said? Keep it super simple. Keep it super simple, right? You're going to tell this story in front of the jury. As trial lawyers, we're storytellers. That's what we are. And whoever tells the better, simpler, easier to remember story, that's usually the one who's going to win. So keep it super simple. How do I get all the data points in front of me? We use these worksheets that we've developed. These worksheets, they look really easy and simple when we provide them to attorneys, but then when they sit down and try to fill them out, they really learn about their cases because it forces you to think about your case and how you're going to tell the story. This first worksheet is just the universe of possible witnesses that are going to be testifying at the trial. Because listen, we're telling a story, and these are the characters in our story. And we tell the story through the characters. So we've had attorneys come to us with these cases, and they're telling me the story they want to tell, and I look at the witness list, I'm like, you don't have a character to tell that part of the story. We got to fill that hole, or that part of the story can't be told because we don't have the character to tell that story. And you'll notice here what I do is I'm a big fan of making it easy to understand from a sky-high view. So I color code things, and I arrange things. And the beauty of this is because it's in Microsoft Word, I can quickly and easily change the color of the rows just by highlighting them and picking the color I want. I put a little key up at the top that's easy to understand. I can edit text in there just by clicking and typing because it's a Microsoft Word document. I can rearrange the rows because we also use this to figure out the order of proof, how we're going to tell the story, which characters are we going to introduce first. And then throughout trial, we continue to use this to update what's going on. Like we fully expected that this Joseph Peck and Steve Rothman, they were defense experts. We fully expected they were going to come in and say their little nonsense, and we were prepared to destroy them.
And then one died, so we didn't get the chance to cross him. So that changed things a little bit.
He knew we were going to cross him, so he took the easy way out.
So but that also changes things too, because it goes from live testimony that you're planning on to depot designations, and so you have to be ready for that.
And you can see here, so once we found out they weren't going to bring them, we're crossing them out right here. This is with me at trial table. And so now I know, all right, now in the closing, I got to check to see if in the opening they said anything that this character was going to be establishing for them, because now I know these characters are no longer there. Maybe I can use that in my closing, that they promised you this, and they never produced anybody to prove that to you. So that's the characters. Now we need to know what happened. What are the events in the story? What happened to the characters? So we use this timeline worksheet. And this timeline worksheet, you can see in this case, it was 43 pages long. And I tried to keep them to a single line. You'll see some that take up more than one line, but I tried to keep them to a single line. So that's 43 pages of data points of what happened in this case. And when you develop this timeline, you got to start with the earliest point in time where this event could have been prevented. That's where you get to a system failure. When attorneys have returned this to me and they've started with the incident and they give me the timeline of the incident, that's an event case. An event case isn't going to get us where we need to go. We need it to be a system failure. They knew about this 10 years ago. They knew about this 5 years ago. They knew about it 3 years ago. And what did they do? Nothing. So we go as far back as we can, and we may be years before the incident. That's where the timeline begins. This timeline includes everything, all of the events in the case, and the lives of the characters that are important to our case. So you'll have moments in time way far in the back where this could have been prevented, maybe prior similar incidents. Then you'll have a breakdown of the incident itself, and that may go down to the minute or to the second. Then you'll have all of the medical treatment afterwards. Then you'll have other important facts about both liability and damages. Anything that's important to your case, we need to see it in front of us.
The goal is that we want to make it simple, right? So if you're going to make something simple, you can show a whole bunch of information in a few number of slides. And so what you're going to see today, we're going to go through the opening, and Jordan's going to show you how we took these timelines and developed them into we call it edutainment. That's what Jordan coined for us at the firm. It's educating and entertaining the jury at the same time. So we create slides that are entertaining and educational for the jury. And so all this stuff you're seeing looks like boring, lawyer, writing, it's long, ugh. But I want you to see how it gets transformed into a final product. So we're going to get into that, but understand that we're going over this. We talked about doing this, and we want you to see what it looks like because everybody likes, a lot of people like sausage. You never want to see how sausage is made. Well, look, there's no secret to when you see what our trials look like at the end product, it looks easy and simple and quick. The amount of time and effort and work that went into it was a lot, and it's kind of neat. We wanted to show everybody what this looks like before it's the final product that we show to the jury and CVN and everybody else. So that's what you're seeing here.
And so, let's say you go to your client's house, which is a good thing to do. See what their life is like. Look at the pictures on their wall. Look at the knickknacks in their curio cabinet. Figure out who they are. Let's say you go to their house and you're looking at the wall and there's pictures on the wall of all their golf outings. Maybe they play golf all over the world. When they go on vacations, they go play golf. And then the incident happens and the pictures stop. That's going in my timeline. In my timeline, I'm going to have this golf vacation, this golf vacation, this golf vacation. Then the incident, it's over. His passion is gone. I want all the data points in my timelines.
And a big part that we see mistakes happen is the lack of photographs that plaintiffs provide to us when we're trying to do our opening. We want to show pictures. It's always shocking especially today with phones. There's a gazillion photos of your client, most likely. You need to go and track them down. And then we want to know who's in the picture with them, what's the date of the picture. It's shocking to us how many times people come to us. I'm like, oh, this is a great picture. Who's in that picture with that person? Oh, that's so-and-so, her best friend. Oh, great. Are they a witness? Why didn't you list them as a witness? Shouldn't they be a before and after witness? Hell yeah. So photos can tell you who your witnesses are, by the way. So get to know your client early. Get the photos. Ask who's in the pictures with them. What's their relationship with that person? And that will help our list of characters, and it's going to create our evidence because we love showing pictures of how happy our client's life was before the bad thing happened and what it is today. And Jordan we have examples in other cases where people die. Jordan just takes the picture of the client out of the picture and makes a silhouette. So now the picture is the same picture, but our client's not in the picture. And that's a pretty powerful closing argument that we can make by using photos. So make sure that you're getting the photos. It's a huge mistake that we see happen almost on every case. On almost every case, the plaintiff lawyers do a really poor job of gathering photos. It should be something you do at intake. And certainly before you file a lawsuit, you should have 50, 100, 200 photos that you can choose from what you want to use for the case.
And when defense provides you photos, they send it to you PDF, black and white. No, I'm not taking this. Take this back. Give it to me in color. I don't want your Xerox copy of incident photos.
Yeah,
Send it to me in
you
color.
need to ask for, it's called the native file. You need to ask for the native file of those photos that they're giving you, because they'll intentionally give you they'll print out the picture, they'll make it black and white, and then they'll make a copy of that. Be like, here's our production. And they know you can't use it for anything. We know we want the native file. We want the original digital file, so we can then blow it up, focus on stuff. We can do a lot of stuff with a native file. If you give us a copy of a copy, there's not a lot you can do. Because as you start to blow it up, it pixelates, and it's not good.
So that's the timeline. We had the characters, then we had what the characters went through, and then the last one is very important. We call it the alibis, the excuses, the defenses. What is the defense going to say? How are they going to win this case? You want to be the first one to talk about that stuff. You want to be the one to frame it. You want to take control of it. Take a bad point and make it a strong point for you if you frame it first. And I'm talking about the stuff that keeps you up at night. I'm going to lose this case because, don't run from it, run towards it. You've got to be the first one to talk about it. If you think this is really bad, I don't want to talk about it because it's bad for my case, and they're the first ones to talk about it, and they frame it,
Okay, I'll take care of it.
it's a bad day for you. And so in this case, for instance, our client was in a lot of pain. He gets put on painkillers, Oxy. He's taking a lot of them. He gets a surgery and he tells his doctor, I'm feeling better now. The pain's it's not as bad. So the doctor starts knocking down how much painkillers he's given. The prescription's getting smaller and smaller, fewer and fewer. But our client's also seeing a pain management doctor. That pain management doctor writes a script for some more Oxys at the higher level. So he tells the surgeon, the pain's not as bad. Pain management doctor fills full scripts. Doctor finds out about it. He writes a report saying, he lied to me. Now all of my treatment is in question. I'm not sure if he's just drug seeking. Some stupid report. That's scary. But we got to run towards it. We got to be the ones to frame it. Because when we talked to our client about it, he wasn't filling both scripts. He stopped filling the script from the surgeon and started filling the other one because we had a higher dose. And when we asked him, why do you do this? He said, that doctor did this crazy surgery on me, and I'm afraid of doctors. I didn't want any more surgery. So I thought I'll just tell him the pain's not as bad, and I'll just use the painkillers to live with it. And so when we explained that to the doctor, he understood, and he testified well for us. But we ran towards it. It was one of our alibis, one of our defenses that we had to talk about first. We also had one where my client was out with his wife and his brother. They were riding their bikes downtown Las Vegas. They were looking for the hottest chicken wings. And so there was an allegation that he had a beer with one of his chicken wings, with one of the chicken wings. So that had to be an alibi because we were afraid of it. It was not a good fact for us that he was drinking before this happened. But it was only an allegation of like one beer. So we created an alibi for it, but at the same time we're writing a motion in limine, we're fighting it, we're trying to keep it out. And so it was kept out, we cross it off.
And understand that in this case, we also had a big data study done by John Campbell, which helped us understand the risk associated with these alibis that we were coming up with. And it was like, I want to say it was 10.8% of jurors endorsed blame on the plaintiff for the beer. If they found out the client had a single beer, some would blame the plaintiff partially. Now, there was no evidentiary basis for it, which is how we were able to keep it out, because the defense expert said that would have no impact on why the wreck happened at all. So there was no actual reason to bring it in other than to just create prejudice. There was no probative value. So the judge made a good record on that and kept it out. but you have to be prepared for it in case you get a bad ruling, right? If it comes in, then you deal with it. We knew from our data study that it wasn't going to hurt us anyways, but we didn't want to why take an unnecessary risk? And that's where we made the decision to fight that.
And so the goal with these is when attorneys provide me with their list of the alibis, the excuses, the defenses are, I try to take what they give me and simplify it, make it shorter. I don't want it to be a long sentence. I don't want it to be multiple lines. I want it to be a short, simple sentence. And then I'm going to broaden it, widen it, because we don't know how they're going to say it. We don't know how defense is going to word it. So I want to broaden it, widen it, so it catches however they phrase it, and I want to make it a little ridiculous so that I'm framing it, and no matter how they say it, the jury's going to think, oh yeah, I remember that. That's that ridiculous thing you told us they were going to say, regardless of how they say it. And when we do this well, when we hit this right, we had a case where a woman was here at the Mandalay Bay. She was a model, and she was in one of the booths. She had an ice cream. She had an extreme peanut allergy. The ice cream had pretzel on it, and pretzels are known to be a safe food for people with peanut allergies. But this pretzel had peanut butter inside of it. So she goes into an anaphylactic reaction. They rush her to the med tent, and the med tent doesn't have IV epinephrine there, which costs like $2.63 or something. But it expires after like a year. And they weren't using a lot of it, so they thought, oh, we'll just save $2.63 and not stock it. Well, this was the day that they needed it, and she's now a lock-in. She's aware, but stuck in her body and can't move, and will spend the rest of her days living in a bed. It was just horrible. So we nailed these defenses so well, these alibis so well, that after Christian Morris did the opening, the defense stands up and they say, yeah, we're just going to waive our opening. We're going to save it for our case in chief. And they didn't even do their opening. Because they knew if they did the opening that they came there prepared to do, they were going to look foolish. Because we destroyed everything that they planned to say. Now, on both the alibi and the timeline worksheet, there is a column where you are to put in the Bates number or the depot column number. You'll see this column over here. Where is this information coming from? Because you have to remember, when we're talking to a jury, they look at us as lying, manipulating lawyers who'll say anything to win our cases. So every time I say something to the jury, I want to show them something. I want to show them something where the support came from, where that piece of information came from, so that they don't think I'm just saying this stuff, but that I have evidence to support what I'm saying.
It's also going to help us, right, when we're putting your opening statements together. We have all the evidence that we're going to use, so we don't have to go search for everything. We've already got it. We know what we're talking about. It makes it a lot easier. It's a lot more organized. And the biggest waste of time on work days is when the referring attorneys come in and they don't know where anything is. They're like, oh, no, there's this one document that's really good. Okay. Where is it? Oh, I'll find it. And then it's like they don't find it. So when you're going through and you're being organized, you're doing, and I'm sure who uses hot docs or key docs when you're getting ready for your trial, these important documents you pull out, those are what you want to do, because what this process ultimately forces you to do is, those cases where you've got 600 exhibits potentially, we only want to use 5, 10, 15 at the most. Your cases really do center around very few documents at the end of the day. We always worry about introducing all these documents. We've gone through entire trials and moved for the admission of none. Right? Why do you need to move for the admission of documents in your cases? You don't. If you don't really need it, you don't need it. And when you look at the way the evidence comes in through the testimony of the witnesses, you don't need the documents because the evidence is the testimony. You can have the documents if you want, and the defense may come in and say they might want to start cherry picking parts of medical records to introduce, and then I'll just say, well, Judge, for purposes of completeness, I think we should introduce all 9,000 pages then. It makes them look kind of like they're maybe not being truthful, Your Honor, we'd like to introduce pages 2 and 19 and 943 of Exhibit 7. Well, Judge, I just think for purpose, and this is in front of the jury, for purposes of completeness, Your Honor, I think we should introduce pages 1 through 2,343 of Exhibit 7. All of a sudden, you're not hiding anything, you're being inclusive, and they're trying to cherry pick, just backfired on them. So here, now go look at these 2,400 pages of records that nobody's ever going to read. So, little technique if you guys are wondering how you handle that when that happens.
So that's how we get the story of the case. We collect all the data points, we have all the data points in front of us, and then we start to figure out what the story is and how we're going to tell it. So it begins with the plot. The plot is, what is this case about? And tell me in one simple sentence. When lawyers come in and I say, what is your case about? I just kick back in my seat, and they talk for half an hour, 45 minutes. They just go on and on and on and on. But when you're in front of the jury, it's got to be one simple sentence. What is this case about? So in Roybal, a professional driver driven by impatience hits a bicyclist and flees. That's the whole case. That's what the entire case is, right there in one sentence. And that is early on in my opening. When I say, and we say it in every case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a simple case, so you must be wondering why we're here. Even when it's the most complicated case you've ever seen, we always begin, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a simple case, so you must be wondering why we're here. That's it, one sentence. Then we've got the story. The story is the events of the case as seen through the eyes of the characters.
Let me just chime in, though. When Geordan talks about what this case is about, and he comes here and he says, and flees, that wasn't by mistake. We had run data on this in a bunch of focus groups, and we knew that one of the big issues was that this guy didn't stop at the scene. Like, the number one reason that was pissing everybody off in the case was that the guy tried to drive away. And the word flee is the word choice that the focus groups were using. So that, it seems like a little thing, but there was a lot of work that went into getting that phrase right. So when you're describing what the case is about, you don't get, it's not what you think the case is about. It needs to be what you know the case is about and what's moving the needle. We had a case that we had Jennifer Morales and Shannon Wise in my firm did, a med-mal case. I thought it was a dog. It wasn't a good case because I thought the case was about a doctor's decision to do a rod instead of a cast. I'm like, I don't like that case very much. Well, they told a different story. And their story was, this is a case about a doctor who chose not to come in and was taking money from a hospital. He was on call and didn't come in when he was supposed to. I'm like, oh, that bothers me a lot. Bothered the jury. They got $5.5 million verdict on a case that I thought was a loser, just by changing the story. But that was because they worked on it and they focus grouped it and determined why are people upset with the facts? What about the facts matters? And that's what you want to do. So it seems like such a little thing. This seems like this is one of those things that seems so simple that he just, and this is what the case is about. This takes a long time to get right, and you want to make sure you get it right, because I've seen times where attorneys say, this is what this case is about, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Why does anybody, okay, well, that's not doing anything for me. But that hits a bicyclist and flees. Everybody's now, what? What? Don't tell me that dude left. Hell no. You hit somebody on a bike and you left the scene? That's fucked up. And that's how, because this story could have been about a lot of different things. It could have been about hiring a guy that was a bad driver. There's a lot of things that we could have put here, but we boiled it down to this, and then you'll see how it plays out. But it seems really simple right there, but there was a lot of work that went into narrowing that little sentence down. And I want you all to appreciate, you need to spend the time to understand truly what's moving the needle on your case.